Hello, my name is Paul Bourget. I am the project director of Bourstad simulation at Cyrano. In this animation, I'll be presenting socially responsible investing in Bourstad simulation. This is an overview that will complement the information that you'll find in the guide of socially responsible investing that is now available in the documentation system of the Bourstad platform. In this animation, I'll be talking about the guide to responsible investment and sustainable development concept, what are the main concepts in these matters, socially responsible investment aspect in the Bourstad platform, and the qualifying test for the responsible investment component of the 2020 Bourstad Challenge. The guide to responsible investment in the 2020 Bourstad Challenge is comprised of many sections. The first section will provide you with a definition of responsible investment. The next section will describe the main strategies for responsible investing. Then you'll find a few historical events in the socially responsible investing movement. Then we'll talk about ESG performance, or extra financial risk, environmental, social, and governance risk. We'll also have a section about how to evaluate the performance of companies regarding these risks. There are many specialists that work in the field of socially responsible investing or sustaining investment. So there's a part of the guide presenting the specialists, giving you links that enable you to go to their website and gather many more information on the subject. There are then two sections that comes from a recent volume from Cyrano about sustaining development. The first section is industrial strategy and sustainable development, clean technologies clusters, and then we'll have a section on circular economy. We'll the guide is completed with discussing the socially responsible investing in Bourstad simulations. Where to find the guide? In documentation, the folder educational content, and the title is Guide for the Responsible Investment Component. As mentioned, the guide includes two sections from the book Le Développement Durable à l'ère des changements climatiques. This book was published by Cyrano in the fall of 2019. We have included two sections translated in English in the guide, but if you want to access to the whole book, it's more than 400 pages, very, very detailed about sustainable development. You can access to the book free on the publisher's site. For that, I'll suggest that you look at the PDF version of this animation. That you'll find the PDF version right next to this animation. And on the PDF version, the links are dynamic, so you'll be able to get to the publisher's site and download this very wonderful guide, this very wonderful book on sustainable development. So, responsible investment and sustainable development concept. First, there are the strategies of responsible investment: screening, active shareholding, solidarity investment. Then we talk about the ESG factors. More and more we learn about these factors, so we also call them the extra financial risk, environmental risk, social risk, corporate government risk, ESG. And we also talk about sustainable development, some industrial strategies about sustainable development. So we have the emergence of clean technology clusters. Canada already has 3 of these clusters, and circular economy. So first, responsible investment strategies. The first strategy implemented for many decades now is screening. Portfolio manager can screen values to include in their portfolio based on goods and services, ESG performance. So if you screen based on goods and services, you will strive to include companies working in green technologies, electric vehicles, organic food, and you'll avoid weapons, nuclear energy, or even fossil fuel energies and fields like tobacco. If you want to screen based on ESG performance, so then you'll try to score companies based on their ESG performance, and you will decide to include companies with better scores and to avoid those with less interesting scores. So you can even go in fields that, let's say, like fossil fuel energy. In this industry, you'll find companies that work to restore sites and that are working hard to build their renewable energies divisions next to their basic or classic fossil fuel sectors. These type of companies will earn higher scores. So if you screen based on ESG scores, you could decide to include in the portfolio companies that are already working for what will happen beyond oil and gas. The next strategy is what we call shareholder activism, or so with that type of strategy, you'll go to the general assemblies and you'll be active, maybe proposing resolutions to the gathering of shareholders, resolution that can improve the ESG performance of these companies. You'll try to enter in dialogue with these companies to make proposals. The last type of strategies is what we call solidarity investment. So that's the social economy, and it's also called impact investing, investing in companies that are working hard to transform how the society works and to improve many aspects of our society. Impact investing. Let's give a look at environmental risk. The main environmental risk implying business are climate change, contaminations of water and air, so water consumption and air pollution, the preservation of biodiversity. Higher risk industrial activities are oil and gas, electricity, mining and metals, cement, mining, forest products. If we look at social risk, though we can talk about workers' rights, complicity in the violation of human rights, particularly in parts of the world where you're trying to establish new developments that could have negative impacts on, let's say, water supplies of communities or the air quality. And then you have community relations. Many resource companies are located quite far from your urban centers, and in these parts of the world, these business can be very important. They can represent maybe 50% of the employment in these communities, and they can have major impacts on what's happening in these localities, in these municipalities. Higher risk industrial activities are manufacturing in clothing and toys and electronics for workers' rights. Many of these companies are having activities in emerging countries. So oftentimes workers' protection regulations are not very present. So these companies could take advantage of the lack of regulations, and by our standard, this is considered unacceptable. So Complicity in the violation of human rights, mainly oil and gas and mines are the type of industries concerned by these risks. Same thing for community relations, because if you take a company like the tire company Michelin, it's operating out of Clermont-Ferrand, which is quite a large city in France, but maybe 30% of everyone in Clermont-Ferrand has some link with Michelin. So in that type of, even in some large cities, companies may have important implication in community relations. Corporate governance risks, so that would be excessive remuneration of the CEO. A board of directors composed of a majority of members related to management or even to the ownership of the company, and tax havens. Large companies, all sectors combined, are concerned when we talk about excessive remuneration of CEO or higher management. The separation between the board of directors and the management is mostly found where ownership is concentrated in a single individual or a family. Oftentimes these people are involved in the management, are also part of the board of the directors. So the separation between ownership, board of directors and management is not really accomplished in this type of situation. For tax havens, all sectors can be concerned. Financial institution historically has been known to have major activities in small tax haven countries, but we also know that large tech companies can try to transfer the profits in some countries with very low tax rates. It is another type of tax havens. Since some time, Yahoo Finance has been providing ESG measures for companies. So if you click on the sustainability type when you look at some information for a company in the Yahoo Finance platform, you'll get sustainability information. Again, if you consult the PDF version of this animation, you'll have an active link to get to that information. Clean technology clusters. As I mentioned before, there are now 3 such clusters in Canada, one in Montreal, one in Toronto, and one in Vancouver. These clusters, 50 of them in the world right now, they collaborate among them to lobby for more favorable regulation regarding clean technology industries. What are they? So that's energy efficiency, renewable energy, green chemical, green transportation, sustainable mobility, water management, air management, soil management. So all these industries are now working together in association and clusters to collaborate and exchange, let's say, technologies and know-how. Circular economy is a concept more and more looked upon now. First, it needs to rethink of the conception, at the conception phase, to reduce resource consumption and preserve ecosystems. All the value chains is concerned: extraction, manufacturing, distribution, and use. At the use level, we look to optimize, intensify product use, so sharing or collaborative economy, renting instead of owing. Extend the product and component, the life of products and components, maintenance and repair, donating and reselling, refurbishing, the performance economy in which companies will decide to keep the ownership of what they sell, so they take it back when the user doesn't need it anymore, and they can refurbish, implement newer technologies, in these products and resell it to new users and give resources a new life. So that would be recycling, composting, recovering materials, and recycling. So circular economy, many strategies are used, collaborative sharing economy. So we know about Uber and Airbnb, although there might be perverse effects. If some part of cities are now mostly used by let's say, concept like Airbnb, so people can no longer rent a dwelling for their normal use. So we're entering the perverse first phase of it. But the concept that a car can stay in your parking lot for 95% of the time may be circumvented by some strategies of circular economy like Uber, or maybe only renting or performance economy using cars, like in sharing services like Communauto, for example. Reconditioning, remanufacturing, and repairing product instead of, let's say, putting them as waste material. Industrial symbiosis, that would mean industries that can collaborate. Let's say, for example, forest product companies that will collaborate with renewable energy enterprise. Let's say that the residual from the forest product enterprise are used by an enterprise that produces renewable energy using waste from the production of paper or production of wood for construction. Recycling, finally, recycling material is another type of circular economy. Responsible investment aspect in Bourstad platform. When you define your investor, you have the opportunity to indicate how sensible this investor is about responsible investment issues. As the portfolio manager, you must indicate, will you take into account extra financial risk in your strategy? Will you take into account environmental risk, social risk, governance-related risk? When you make transactions or trade, you have 48 hours to justify your transaction, and you can justify based on ESG factors. Also, you find many funds and securities of particular interest for responsible investment or sustainable investing in the selection. Let's look first at the funds. First, you have the PowerShare Cleantech portfolio, the PowerShares Winder Hill Clean Energy portfolio. You have the Gender Diversity Index from SPDR with the symbol SHE. Guggenheim Solar, now it's Invesco that's running this ETF about solar energy. We had the Organics ETF, it's been withdrawn last week, but there are two more that I will soon indicate. There is the Gender Diversity Index. This is actively managed fund from BMO, from RBC. You'll find the fossil fuel free global equity fund. Also from RBC, there are two funds that have been proposed by Michael Genzi, which is a pioneer of socially responsible investing in Canada. So RBC is proposing two additional vision funds gathered by Michael Genzi. They're not mentioned in this list, but they are available in the selection. The TMX, Toronto Stock Exchange, has introduced recently the Renewable Energy and Clean Technology Index. This index is comprised of 18 securities, and all of them are part of the Bourstad portfolio selection. All these shares can be traded in the Bourstad simulation. Also, there is every year the Corporate Knights Global 100, which is the most sustainable corporation in the world. And in the Bourstad selection, we find 26 of these corporations, and you have all of them listed on this slide. In parentheses, you'll find their ranking. So Cisco is the first, and TELUS is the 96th in the list, is the first among those you can invest in. Qualifying test for the responsible investment component of the 2020 Bourstad Challenge. So normally that's 2 weeks, but in 2020 now we're planning on 3 weeks for completing this test. You'll find approximately 40 objective questions and 2 essay questions, and there are a few parameters that you have to be aware of. Well, for the parameters, the access is limited to the contest participants. If you are participating to the 2020 Bourstad Challenge in a tandem, you must carry out the test individually, because the test has to be carried out individually, even for tandem participants. There is a limit of 2 attempts per participant and a time limit of 90 minutes. Once you start the test, you cannot interrupt. You have to perform it all over until it's finished. However, if you prepare yourself carefully, you can probably complete the test in much less than 90 minutes, but you have a full 90 minutes to perform the test. 2 essay questions. First question, that's a shareholder proposal for one of the companies whose shares were traded in 2020 Bourstad Challenge. And the second company asks you to list current issues of responsible investment and sustainable development as we speak. The wording of question 1: write a shareholder proposal for one of the companies whose shares were traded in the 2020 Bourstad Challenge. This proposal must aim at improving the ESG performance of the company concerned and state the actions or results that will following its acceptance at the company shareholders meeting. You must identify on the first line the name of the company targeted by this proposal. There is a maximum number of words, 500 words. Maximum number of words, 500 words. Now the wording of the question 2. Visit the sites of organizations such as Groupe Investissement Responsable, which provide in both French and English an annual report on the issues of socially responsible investment. There is also the Investment Association, Responsible Investment Association. That's a Canadian group with many information on the subject. There are other specialized sites, and produce an original text in which you present some of the current issues of socially responsible investing. You should normally be able to identify the specific ESG risk raised by these issues, as well as recent development in each case. Maximum number of words, 500. Implementation. Email communication were sent to all participants and institutional heads and group supervisors. If you want to look at the email sent to the participants, you'll find it in the documentation. So that's documentation to the Bourstad Challenge contestants, and the title is 2003-13 Invest Socially Responsible Investment Component. So you'll find it easily in the documentation. There is in the menu instruction for the responsible investment test. You see it here highlighted. And the participant accesses the test by an available link on the instruction page when he is connected to his account. So when you click to the link, there's a page that displays. At the bottom of the page, you'll see first you'll see your personal access code and a link to the investment test application. When you arrive at the page, you have to enter your personal access code, and you're on to perform the test. So I wish you involve yourself in this aspect of Bourstad. At Cyrano, we strongly believe that socially responsible investing is probably the most important learning you can achieve by participating in the Bourstad simulation, particularly the 2020 Bourstad Challenge. So enjoy participating to this component of Bourstad. Bye now.